Diablo 2 Resurrected, an absolute spectacular remake, one of the best games in the world of all time, in my opinion, but not everything is sunshine and rainbows and little furry cute kittens. Today I'm coming at you with the 5 worst things that were changed from Diablo 2 LOD to Diablo 2 Resurrected. Now, first up, I do want to mention in the video where I went over the 5 best things in Diablo 2 Resurrected that were changed, that one was a lot more like, well, in this category, there's so many changes that were so great I couldn't possibly list them all, but some of them are. That's not actually how this video is going to go, because actually way more of the changes were great about Diablo 2 Resurrected than the ones that were bad. So these little changes that I disagree with and think that they're kind of a mistake are kind of super hyper specific. If they would have either left these things in the game from Diablo 2 Resurrected or changed them in a slightly different manner, the game would have been a little bit better. Now, for the very first one, they added several rune words, and for the most part, they didn't go too over the top. They didn't absolutely break the game. But there is one absolute disgusting abomination that is one of the worst mistakes made in all of Diablo 2 Resurrected. Now, before the addition of Mosaic, really martial art assassins were hardly ever played. It was kind of a, I don't know if we want to go meme build, but off-meta build. It wasn't as powerful as the Hammerden, as a Nova Sorceress, things like that. Well, now, nothing in the game even compares to this version of like a martial art assassin. When you have all those different charges up and running, just absolutely blasting, the Mosaic Assassin absolutely melts anything in the game instantaneously. Now, with a lot of other builds like the Hammerden, perhaps, you need a bunch of rune words that take a ton of high runes. You pretty much have to have Enigma for a Hammerden to really work any good, or you're just throwing a random hammer here and there and running back and running away. You kind of need Heart of the Oak. There's several uniques that you kind of sort of need to get up to certain breakpoints to really get the most damage out of it. But not for Mosaic Assassin. All you need is 2 Mals and 2 Gulls. Slap that together with 2 Am runes, of course, because it's Mal, Gull, Am to go ahead and make it. Throw it in really any 3-socketed claw for that matter. And instantly, the whole game just becomes trivial. Essentially, every season now, the top hundreds and hundreds of characters that get to 99 first are always all exclusively Mosaic Assassins. I don't have super high hopes that there's going to be a ton of changes in Diablo 2 Resurrected, but maybe somebody can like donate their time at Blizzard. Somebody working on Diablo 2 Resurrected, anybody left, go ahead and just eliminate this rune word for the game. It is irredeemable. There's nothing that needs to be changed. Just get it out of the game, and just, it's perfectly fine to have a martial art assassin just not be as powerful as other builds. There's lots of stuff like that in the game. Is anyone complaining that the Arctic Blast Druid isn't as powerful as a Hammerden? Some builds just aren't as good as others, and I think that's actually great. So hopefully in the near future, Mosaic will be a thing of the past. Coming in at number 2, and I feel like this one really from the straight launch should have been added, and that is some kind of trading message board, trade window, some kind of, in-game sponsored trade site. So for now, there's a few different trade sites. A lot of people like Tradery. You really just meet up with somebody. Hey, I'll give you a burr for a Griffins, for example. You meet up in a game, you go ahead and trade, but it's just an online message board essentially to go ahead and meet people and find out what they want to trade for. Now, how was this not ever thought of or added to Diablo 2 Resurrected? Especially with all the problems that people don't like the websites where they sell stuff for real money. People wouldn't even have to go out of the game, stumble around in the trade sites and accidentally come across some place where you can just buy items if they actually had a trade in game. I kind of feel too like this was a no-brainer in that it wouldn't actually kind of be that tough to implement. So I'm not sure why it never really got around to being a thing. Unfortunately, I'm sure there's not really going to be any more development on Diablo 2 Resurrected at this point in its life cycle. So this is probably never going to happen. But if we're wishful thinking, maybe one day we'll get a message board right in the Diablo 2 Resurrected window. Maybe off to the side where there's like that local chat that like nobody does except for like spamming whatever websites to go buy gear on. Coming into number 3, and this is a pretty hyper specific one, but it was something people used to do all the time, and I kind of wish they still could, but technically it was a bug that they removed, and that is what is called e-bugging armor. So when you have ethereal armor, or actually weapons as well, but we're talking about armors in this specific example, you'd get 50% bonus to the defense on that armor. Now, back in LOD, there was a bug where if you rolled the cube recipe to go ahead and add a random amount of sockets to an ethereal item, it would accidentally reapply that 50% again on top of what was already there. Now, I actually loved this aspect of the game because it added in another like almost gambling, another exciting thing that could happen, because you'd go ahead and get that extra 50% defense on an armor, but then you also had to get the exact number of sockets you needed as well. So sometimes you would just brick a base that was like the perfect one you needed, but then you only got one socket in it instead of like 4 or whatever you needed. Now, it is called e-bugging armor, but it did work on helmets and it did work on shields as well, but the armors were the most noteworthy. Now, I do also understand that they want to get rid of any bugs that were in the game, but here's what I say they should have done. Why don't you go ahead and get rid of the e-bugging armor, but then they should have altered the cube recipe. Just go ahead and make the cube recipe do, I don't know, add the sockets, and also maybe they should go ahead and make the cube recipe give you that random number of sockets from 1 to 6, but also on armor, I don't know, just give you maybe an additional 50% defense, but only if it's ethereal. So essentially just take the bug and just make it a feature. Definitely, I would say the game was not broken before. Really, honestly, do we even feel much of a difference from that less 50% defense? But it's just one other thing to kind of separate the normal ethereal armors from the higher ones and make those runeward bases even more valuable if it rolled perfect and got the exact sockets that you needed. Number 4 was kind of a good thing, but I feel like they could have done it better. And that is actually kind of how they implement terror zones in Diablo 2 Resurrected. Now, these things are absolutely crucial if you're getting to 99. The old way was just complete nonsense. I would have never even tried. Now, running terror zones to try to find good gear, sometimes I just accidentally, over the course of, well, a lot of time, but I eventually just get to 99. But the way I absolutely hate it is how there's a rolling time clock. So you go ahead and look like, oh man, TZ Andy is just never popping up when I'm at work or when I, have to do this or I have to do that. Oh, here's another Terrorized Chaos. Can't play. Oh, here's another Terrorized Flare Jungle. Darn, I guess I'll go ahead and get on and it'll be like the Icy Cellar Terrorize or something. It becomes especially annoying when you go ahead and look at the single player offline terror zone schedule. Then you can actually look and see, oh no. I got to take my daughter somewhere later and Easy Andy's popping up. Or like, hey, I really shouldn't play right now, but look at these terror zones coming up for the next 3 hours. Maybe I'll shift around my schedule. I don't like the best places in the game, the funnest places in the game, the place where you can actually advance the most and the fastest, to be locked behind a time clock, manipulating you into playing when you don't want to play. That feels like a real scummy, just a real disgusting way of getting people to play your game more, kind of taking advantage of, mental weakness at the moment or something. I prefer a game that you play when you have time to play and when you want to play it. And then when you play the game, you can do the things you want to do when you want to do them. I don't like the developers programming it in to try to take advantage of people's weakness. I'm not always great at knowing the perfect solution to something like this. Perhaps if you put in enough hours, maybe every 5 hours, you can get some kind of token to where you can pick the next terror zone that happens for you, or I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing some different things out there, but some way that this isn't trapped behind a time clock in order to go ahead and farm the areas you actually want to. Coming up with number 5 for you, and it's actually the way that you have to go ahead and get an Annie. Now, I will admit it did slightly improve from LOD to Diablo 2 Resurrected, but still for online, you kind of essentially anyways have to follow some streamer who organizes an SOJ selling event. And if all of those SOJ selling events are at like 10 a.m. when you're at work, you just ain't getting an Annie. Now, we can really just kind of disregard offline single player because you just have to sell one SOJ and boom, Diablo clone pops up. But I think that way is perfectly fine for the offline single player. But online, I feel like it's just not quite there. It's not quite the way that I feel would be kind of the best option and go ahead and for the average Joe, the average guy, to get a Nihilist Charm. Now, there's definitely way more good stuff than bad for Diablo 2 Resurrected, but there's my 5. Let me know anything else in Diablo 2 Resurrected that you think was kind of a mistake or maybe just programmed or implemented a little bit wrong. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe up before you go. Peace out and keep slaying.